Action!
I'm here christening my new 25-ton Cole Ironworks hydraulic forging press. So at the beginning of the year, I ordered a hydraulic forging press from Cole Ironworks, who are out of Anderson, Indiana. And I decided, since I've never worked with any sort of equipment like this before, that it'd be great to fly up there for a few days, have them kind of show me how to use it and some techniques and so forth. I talked to Jimmy Diresta earlier in the year, and he'd been interested in a hydraulic press as well, so I invited him down to the event. And then Nathan and Andy from Cole Ironworks also invited Peter from Phyre Forge, as well as David from Cedarlore Forge. And it turned out to be probably the most enlightening experience so far this year for me. I learned so much, met some really great people. And initially I thought I was going to make a video about me, my press, and kind of learning how to use it. But I decided to make this video about them and the work that they do. In this video you'll get a joinery lesson from Peter from Phyre Forge, probably out of focus, as well as some swordsmithing tips from David from Cedarlore. I know it's a longer video, but I think there's some really good information in there, and it's just really great watching these guys work. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. Let me know what you think.
This is my new everyday carry.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
Did you make the one that they did use?
Yeah. So we made 5 total. This one we kept for ourselves. The other 4 were sent off for use by Idris Elba.
2 were solidly. Which movies?
So the first Thor movie that came out.
Introduce yourself.
We are polar opposites. I'm Andy Davis.
I'm Nathan Brandt.
Yeah, we're co-owners of Cole Ironworks. We build all the presses, make sure everything functions. We started this 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
It's 3 years ago now. Somehow we decided one day to build our first 16-ton. We went to a local scrapyard, bought some stuff, assembled it, took it to SOFA, had a fantastic receipt to it, and just started getting orders. When we started Cole Ironworks, we thought we were going to be doing gates and railings and furniture. I mean, that's what we thought. But,
right. Now you manufacture these incredible machines.
Yeah.
And what was your primary learning?
YouTube.
I baited you to say that.
One of the reasons I got in touch with you guys is just I love the fact that, like, how old are you guys?
I'm 26.
27.
You guys are in your 20s. You started a company in USA, did all your own design work, figured it out, and like, it doesn't get.
It's grassroots.
How can you take me seriously when I'm holding this?
More serious. Right.
How long is this thing? This is I don't even know where to put it. It got heavy. I had to like put it on my shoulder.
So my name is David Delagardelle. I own Cedarlore Forge. I got started in the craft with my buddy Andy here when we were crazy high school kids. We started the Mad Dwarf Workshop. So if you search that on YouTube, you'll find our old crazy high school crazy videos. I jumped into the craft full time in 2009 when Andy and I got hired to work on the first Thor movie. So we made this very goofy, oversized butter knife for Idris Elba to use on set of the film. My lovely wife and I live in Muncie, Indiana with our son Boaz, and got a shop out there at our home property, and I just make custom swords. Now, well, I say custom, but I don't take custom orders anymore. I'm at a place now where I'm just kind of making the swords that I've always dreamt of crafting. This is a perfect example. I spend way too long being a neurotic perfectionist. Kind of mixing history and mythology together. So this is a sword I've been working on for a few months now. This is a historical recreation, pretty faithful to the time period of a Vendel period, kind of a bear-themed sword. So I love finding historical artifacts and then building off of them. So this sword was inspired by this pommel. So this bear-shaped pommel is an exact recreation of a pommel that was found in Finland. And I'll give you guys a closer look. It's super odd, strange, because it's in the shape of this weird little bear with 2 bearded, like, wizard faces on its joints. And I think there's only like 2 or 3 examples of this pommel historically, but the pommel was found alone. You know, it wasn't attached to a sword. And so I love finding artifacts like this. And then just guessing, looking at other artifacts, historically accurate, faithful reproduction of how I think the remainder of this sword would have looked. So I got cow horn bronze, some maple wood that I carved with intricate details that match the same time period, a pattern welded blade. This type of a sword, I guess, would be considered a spatha. It's really lightweight. I love like kind of exploring the like 10th century Viking era time period, just around Norway, Sweden, 10th century Viking era is kind of my favorite. But this is, like I said earlier, I grew up and I got into this craft with Andy on a healthy diet of like Tolkien and Beowulf and C.S. Lewis and all that nonsense. And so that's what brainwashed me in a good way as a kid to get into this craft. And so I love blending history and fantasy. So this is like this is a totally fantasy sword as opposed to this. There's some tiny little historical references in here. It's shaped in the style of a Bronze Age sword. So the guard and the pommel is very reflective of a lot of really, really ancient swords from early Celtic Europe. But the difference here is I made my blade out of steel, obviously pattern welded steel.
So tell me what's your name.
My name's Pete Brasspenninks.
Say that last name again.
Brasspenninks. Brasspenninks.
What kind of name is
X
that?
on the end. From the Netherlands.
Oh, right on. And how long have you been? Do you grow up here?
I grew up in Michigan, but yeah.
Right on. And tell me a little bit about your history as a blacksmith. What got you into blacksmithing? What was your formal training as an artist?
I started, I went to art school for college and mostly doing ceramics, sculptural ceramic. So the process is kind of the same. The plasticity, just the method to get there is a little different.
Yeah.
And I started doing small jewelry.
Oh, right on.
Small metals, non-ferrous.
Yeah.
And that got me interested in the process and a little bit of forging and just how metal moved, and eventually got a job working for a blacksmith in his paint booth.
How old are you? How many years ago was that?
19 or 20. Because I didn't really know that blacksmithing existed still.
Right.
That sort of thing. But yeah, through that, kind of got more and more interested and saw the process. And
Right.
yeah, after I graduated, I moved home, started getting some tools. And
Right. So you've been blacksmithing for 13, 14 years?
14 years or so, yeah.
What inspires you to come up with these geometric shapes? Like, where do you derive your inspiration from?
The challenge, I think, of it. Blacksmithing is my career, but it's my hobby as well. The what's possible, what can you get out of a lump of inert material,
Yeah.
give it life and body and form.
Right.
So
I love that they're like unsolvable puzzles.
yeah,
That's what I love about them.
yeah, I make work for blacksmiths to look at.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I consider it. It makes more sense if you understand the process or the process that can't be in it. So
Right, because you look at it and you unfold it. Like I know I looked at it and I trying to unfold it in my mind to try and figure out where it was either straight or round or.
yeah.
It's beautiful work.
Well, thank you.
It really is. And tell me a little bit about your teaching, if people can find you anywhere. Or
I've been doing more classes this past year, traveling around. They're kind of few and far between when they come about. I post about it online, that sort of thing to make people aware. But yeah, it's been great. Kind of bounce around the country, meet new people, and
Same with me. At this time of my life, I've been doing the same thing.
Well, you learn a lot in the process because everybody works different. Everyone screws up different. Everyone has success different.
Yeah.
And you can refine your own process by teaching other people. Through the problems that arise. This style of tool, I go almost all the way. Okay, flip it all the way over, and now you see that great bulge. So I don't need a center point. I can eyeball where I want to be. And because we have that big void on the other side, it's gonna find the path of least resistance.
Okay.
But we've got plenty of heat here because there's just that thin little plug that's flattened out in the bottom. Really take your time because we want it to break and not stretch. So that's like a perfect heat. So now you can come in and finish. And then did you hear it when it went quiet? It's not in there, it's just hung up. So I just make this, just push that plug out, get it out of the way. I'll just grab a piece of 3/8 square and I'll use my hold down. Just put that there, clamp it on, and that's my bottom hardy. Consumable, throw away, you can just grab it out of the scrap bin. And then I've got a 1/2 inch for my finish notch. For the class I made these it helps if you're not chasing them around, but
Yeah.
we'll get by. So we're trying to make a 1/2-inch notch, but we're starting with 3/8 kind of as a fuller. Going down about half the thickness, but we're going to push it back in. So work it from both sides, try to keep that displacement equal. So we've got pretty much our notch. I'll clean up those corners a little bit. It's his start chasing it around. Kind of get you. And that's our finished dimension.
So why didn't you just start on the big ones? It's just easier to move it first on the small one?
Because if I started with the 1/2 inch, it displaced those cheeks out, and then when I push those cheeks back in, it would then grow to about 5/8, and then we'd have a really long notch. I can explain it too. A second. I got a little thick, but
This is just mild steel?
yep. But I mean, there's like an almost machined keyway
Yeah, that's crazy.
in one heat, knocked out on some scrap metal. And if you're not chasing around, you can keep it into the red the whole time. But we've got all this material that we smushed out that we want to push back into
So
it.
it's gonna
What that does is it elongates it because it's forging in all directions.
Yeah.
You know, we're not isolating where we're pushing it. But yeah, so if we measure it now, we're closer to 5/8 between our wall heights, because that material has to go back into it somewhere, because we need this to fit through the size pass through that we're making that notch for. Okay. Get it started to where you can start pounding. Then I'm protecting both sides. And then I like drifts that aren't drive-through, so I don't have to chase a hot piece of metal across my floor mid-work. You know, just takes a couple taps. If your taper's gradual enough, it'll pop right out of there. But then, kind of make sure you take it to the extent from both sides, so you know that hole's been opened up. And you can see, because we're putting a 1/2 inch hole in a 1/2 inch piece of material, we got a little thinning, a little left and right to worry about. But I know my drift is slightly oversized with my material, so I've got a little play with moving stuff around. So you can kind of see where you need to address stuff at. You can straighten this stuff. And then if you need to, keep a piece of stock around just to verify, okay, I didn't rhombus that hole out.
Yeah.
So I know I've got enough slop with the tooling that I've made for, you know, a little bit of torquing. But I've all out. That's a sheared end. Whatever. I'm gonna grind it off. Nah, that's cool. So on about 1 inch, and then I shoulder right up against the handle. Kind of see almost halfway. Then come in, really start moving that metal out. it seems like a waste of time, but almost every heat, unless I'm doing a real heavy draw, a real heavy pull, I'll planish everything down, straighten everything up every heat, so I know when I come out of that fire next time, it's in line. I can hit it without having to correct anything. Because if this is all wonky over here, and I come in with a couple heavy blows and drive it further that way, I'm gonna have to fight to get that material back to the other side. But yeah, first heat, just really want to have parameter, that step, so that's about the thickness I'm shooting for. And then you want that taper to be a long, low angle, so that as it's wedging in, you get as much surface contact as possible. Because if you get even 3 degrees, 4 degrees, you're now trying to split it open instead of seize it together. So just put that in there. Yeah, that was the first notch I made. So we straighten it up a little. Finishing this taper, making sure that we're within the size that we need to be. And there, I'm just towing in with my hammer, using that as a fuller. You know, instead of switching out, wasting time flipping my hammer around. Wedges, I like to put a little spring into them. So I'm just going to break some corners, kind of clean those up so they don't drag. And then kind of walk it up a little bit. We have 2 inches. Just a little bit. Oh yeah. A little bit of curve. So it's using the wedge of that taper, but also it has its own memory. So as it's wedging in, it's pushing against that hole to pull itself in. Tell me it's cold. Pop that for us. See if my eyeball worked on this. So. Shoot, sorry. Come out a little bit. Yep.
Oh yeah. Wow. That's so awesome.
Now that's not even set. It's already bound because it kind of filled that parameter. Now those 3 pieces want to be one. I mean, no cleanup or anything on it, but you know, we've got a little bit more room there, so we know that it's bit, but we can give it another drive if it needs. I I tend to do them on a real sharp corner so that I don't get that little radius inside of the notch.
Yeah.
Because if it buries and catches that, it's never going to bite because it's too fast of an increase. But I mean,
Yeah.
How easy do those, if you need to like take that apart, do they come out all right?
when I'm fitting, because on more serious projects, I'll go through and mate up a wedge, a notch, and a hole. I'll number everything, trial fit them, file fit each one to itself to know that it's going to seat fully where I want it to, so that when I put the whole project together, even if it only goes in a ½ inch to begin with, I know that it has room to get finished. Sorry, what was the initial question?
So how easy do they do they come apart and go together fairly?
I try to leave an 1/8 inch kind of flat on the end of that wedge,
so you can drive it out.
Yeah, instead of going down, to a full taper. Because if you do need to get that apart now, you can get in there with a little brass punch, and it's got a flat spot. You're not folding the end of that wedge up.
Most of the swords throughout the Viking Age, they were pattern welded in a very particular way. Swordsmiths today do this pattern because it looks sexy, it looks beautiful, it looks cool. But historically, they were forging, these twists and these folds because they just had to get a homogeneous piece of steel. The beauty of it was kind of a happy accident in the end. So this is going to become one of the central twisted bars. So on most Viking Age swords, you've got two twisted bars that go down the middle, and then you've got your cutting edges. Your cutting edges are usually higher layer, harder steel that can hold a cutting edge. Now there's two ways to get the tip. You can wrap the cutting edge around. It's a little bit more difficult because then you really, getting this to weld right in here is a really difficult challenge. What I like doing, it's a little bit easier. They call it a fish mouth weld. You've got your twists in the middle. Then you got your cutting edges, and it's basically flat. You cut the fish mouth into it, and then you forge this closed. So you got a gap in the middle.
You said that's easier?
I find it easier personally. But I mean,
if I had to try and guess the hardest way to do that, that's what I would.
Both are very challenging. What's challenging about this is it almost always wants to weld here before it welds on the tip. And that creates, if you don't do it perfectly, if you don't weld this first, this will weld, and then you're screwed because you got a gap right towards the tip. That's happened to me a few times, a couple times at least, and it's a lot of work on the window. So personally, now in many ways, the natural flow of this visually looks better because the cutting edge is going to flow. You're not going to have a break. The pattern does flow on this, but you're still going to see that gap in the middle. Well, you're going to see a place where the pattern doesn't flow as smoothly, but both are historical, both were done commonly. So this, again, is going to become one of two twisted cores in the middle. Now, some Viking Age swords had 3, 4, maybe even 5 twisted cores in the middle. It just depends on the sword, depends on the time period. But I'm going to be forging this sword, or at least part of it. So, cool. There you go. Perfect. Nice. Perfect. All right, that's good. Awesome. That looks like it is welded. That's all it takes, huh? There you go. First wardrobe. All right. Right? That was your first wardrobe? Yeah. Sweet. And I'm gonna draw it out to a square, and then at a certain point, I'm actually gonna make it round. I want to make it round before I twist it. I mean, you can twist it while it's square, but the sharp edges on a square bar that's been pattern welded could potentially shear. So it being round helps decrease the likelihood of shearing. From my understanding, that's what I found, but I could be wrong. Can I use this? Nope.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, it's not hard. Can I use this?
for if there's something wrong?
Typically,
blowing out?
Yeah, if there's weld flaws, you're gonna see like a shadow. I don't see any, so should be good. I mean, every time you weld a billet like this, inevitably you're gonna get some shearing on the ends, but you just cut those off. So now I'm gonna heat it up and I'm gonna start hitting it in the opposite direction. So.
Yep. Why do you get the brush wet?
Getting the brush wet helps break the scale off.
Messier?
Yeah, I'm trying to ruin their workshop. It's essentially it, but I should say everything is welded. I just don't want to be too aggressive with it to shear anything. That shouldn't really happen at this point. It's all welded pretty well, but the more time I give it to soak, theoretically the stronger it's going to be. So. Somewhat gently, just to be careful about not shearing anything.
Round with this now.
Rounding it. I'm just gonna break off the scale a little bit.
I can't believe how much that water helps bust the scale out.
It's really helpful. Let's straighten it out first a little bit.
So what's next?
I need to heat up the end closer to me and lengthen that out and round it too. Then I'm gonna cut the whole thing in half down the middle, and then I'm gonna take those two pieces and twist them in opposite directions, so those can be the central core of a sword, of a Viking sword. So, yep.
Wait.
Off on the face against like that. Yeah. I'll tell you.
we at now? So we got this thing, this thing round.
So it's round enough to twist. So yeah, that'd be good. I'm gonna find the middle, mark the middle. I could cut it in half and twist it, but having this entire length actually might help me in twisting it. I'm gonna twist it in 2 different directions so that, you know, when I forge this into the central core, it's gonna create that kind of chevron pattern. You got a soapstone or something?
32.
Cool. Awesome. Even if I could just like knock in a little chisel mark. Yeah. Oh, get that. Let's sit on the drinking. I gotta make sure I get my mark for next. This will probably take a couple different beats. I don't want to be too aggressive, because again, I don't want to shear anything, so I need to get that a lot hotter. Yeah, that's the basics of it. So
We're just gonna do more of those, huh?
yep.
Down the driveway. Hopefully you guys really enjoyed that video. I want to thank Nathan and Andy from Cole Ironworks for putting this whole thing together for us. Jimmy Diresta for picking me up from the airport and shuttling us around for 3 days. Pete from Phyre Forge and Dave from Cedarlore. I learned so much from you guys, and I am incredibly inspired to put this knowledge to use. I have a lot of projects that I have recorded, and I've just been traveling so much I really haven't had the chance to edit them. So I have a lot of new stuff going on in the shop and a lot of projects coming out over the next month, so stay tuned. I also want to thank my Patreon supporters. You guys have been a great help through all this, and here's my wife smashing a can on the hydraulic press. Up. That's good.